All right, welcome to Invisible Walls, episode number 43. I'm Shane Satterfield, editor-in-chief of the site. We got a tight crew in here today. We got Marcus Beer sitting in.
Go Steelers!
That's right, baby. Michael Damiani sitting in.
What's up, everyone?
Daniel Bloodworth.
Hey.
And Mr. Brooks Huber.
Hi-oh.
That was the truncated version of my usual Huber.
It's back.
Got a good show today. We got an even better episode tonight, dare I say, of Game Trailers TV on Spike. We go inside Rockstar for the first time ever, the first time they ever let cameras inside Rockstar Games to check out the new downloadable content, Lost and the Damned. So be sure to check it out tonight on Spike TV at 1 a.m. and we'll have everything up on the site immediately thereafter.
And of course you mean that it's a better GTTV than last week's show as opposed to better than Invisible Walls, because nothing is better than Invisible Walls.
That's why I said, dare I say. Although last week's show did have you and me on it. So.
I know, and we looked handsome, didn't we?
All right, we got a lot to talk about today, so on with the show.
All right, you. Keep your weapons holstered, your hands to yourself, and your mouth shut. Follow me.
All right, first we're going to talk about downloadable content for Fallout 3, one of our favorite games of 2008, and Marcus's absolute favorite game.
The best game ever.
Kitty is a school.
The Michael Phelps of gaming without the bong.
We should just start calling this show like the Fallout show, because we talk about it seemingly every episode in one way or another.
I blame Marcus.
I can do the Fallout dance.
Now, Bloodworth, you've been screwing around with the DLC, and if I'm not mistaken, you spent about 150 hours playing Fallout 3.
If you count the save files that I lost and had to redo, yeah.
Wow.
About 146 hours on the clock officially now, though.
Is that an achievement right there for playing it that way? It should be.
So what do you think, man? Does it really add something to the game? Is it
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean, it's, it doesn't really feel like a normal main quest, and it actually kind of reminds me of playing GoldenEye on the N64 a little bit.
Wow.
Because you start off with just a silenced pistol and a knife, and you have to fight your way through a couple of guys before you get some real weapons, and then you've more sniping before you even get to the real thing. But then once you get to the second part of Anchorage, they have this whole thing where you're actually choosing a party and leading a squad into battle, which is not something that's part of the main quest at all. That you'll have one partner and a dog throughout most of Fallout 3, but this time you actually you have to assemble your team. You have a grenade man or a rocket launcher guy or a sniper, or you can use a whole bunch of points and just have one big robot with a laser and a missile launcher. But then you can't have as many people if you have a big clunky robot alone.
Now, what is the story behind the quests?
The idea is that once you've downloaded and installed it, you'll get a distress call from the Outcasts, which are kind of people that fell out from the Brotherhood of Steel, and they need your help. You clear out some super mutants, and then you go down into their headquarters, and they need to get into this vault that has a lot of these special weapons and armor, and the only way to do that is to complete the simulation, and the only way they can operate the machine is with your Pip-Boy.
Gotcha.
And since you're attached to it, you go along for the ride.
Now, I know it's kind of hard to gauge with a game like this, but what kind of time are you looking at by the time you get through all the content?
With the DLC, I beat it in probably about 3.5, 4 hours. Some people have said they've gotten through it a little less. As anything in Fallout, it really depends on how much you snoop around and how much you just plow through and shoot things.
Worth the money that you spent for it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely a fun little diversion, and if you haven't played for the past month or so, nice, good reason to break out the game.
How many points are they selling it for?
800.
Yeah, it's $10.
It's not too bad.
Well, that was his experience on the Xbox version. I got sent a code for the PC version, and I must say that while Xbox Live and PlayStation Network are great at finding these things, downloading them, Windows Live gaming, whatever the hell it is a bunch of unmitigated quank.
Why?
First of all, it's so difficult to find out where the content is. Then once you find out where it is, more often than not, you have to update the Windows Live Arcade stuff. Once so once you've updated that, then it will tell you that a hotfix is needed for Windows. So which they didn't include in the update for Windows Live Arcade. So you have to update that. So I updated that. and I said, "Oh, this is all okay. You can go ahead and download now." So off I went and downloaded, and about 90 minutes later, got everything downloaded, restarted my machine as suggested. Went to play the game, and this is a game that, on the PC I've been playing since Christmas, and I've got lots of saves. I've been playing it in a different style. I've also even started a different save game where I'm monkeying around with a console to really sort of mess around with the cheats and all that. So I've got a lot of stuff invested in there. I went to activate the game, and it crashes. Totally unplayable. I've had to wipe everything and reinstall, and I haven't got around to fully reinstalling yet. I'm so pissed that when you look at Steam, how easy it is for everything on Steam to get sorted, how Microsoft and Bethesda, I know it probably seemed like a good idea to go through Microsoft, but
why did they? Why wouldn't they just put it up on their own site for purchase?
Well, I'm thinking that it's probably some sort of dual exclusive, and they probably get a better rate because they're delivering Xbox Live only content and PC only content, so they're cutting the Sony game out of the market.
People that bought it on the PS3 are kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Well, truth be told, you don't see a lot of cases where DLC is released for the Xbox and the PS3, and then that same day you get that same content for a PC game.
No, this actually does make more sense for Xbox, for a game that's on Xbox and PC, simply because they're very similar when it comes to development time. But I am so not happy with Microsoft and the games for Windows that they've got right now. It's just an absolute pain in the ass. It's so unwieldy. I don't like the interface. I also don't like the fact that I have to log into Games for Windows to play Operation Anchorage.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Why the hell should I go online to play an offline game? Seriously, that is bullshit.
It's all about control.
Yeah, well, you know what? I had a big earlier, and they won't control that because I'm really furious and I'm disappointed in Bethesda, and I hope this gets sorted before pretty soon, or otherwise I won't be playing the rest of the Fallout stuff. I'll just go and
Why don't you just play the console version?
Because you know what? Because I'm at heart, I'm a PC gamer, and
spoiled.
I would like to see the PC treated with a bit of respect, especially by somebody like Microsoft, and again somebody like Bethesda. I'm not blaming Bethesda too much because obviously it was probably a very savvy business deal for what is a small, relatively small publisher developer. But I am blaming Microsoft.
Fair enough.
What, are you going to go back to the beginning and start all over again, or?
I'll have to.
This is America. You don't have to do anything.
No, I'll have to because I love the game. I want to be able to play the DLC. It's just not right that Microsoft screwed the pooch on this.
You should be fine, assuming you can actually get some results.
All right, so today, Mr. Bloodworth, you wandered on over to Naughty Dog Studios, which actually is right across the street. I've got the telescope in my office so I can spy on them. On one side, I've got Naughty Dog, and on the other side, I have Sony Santa Monica for God of War 3. So I already know pretty much everything about these games. But I'm going to let Daniel tell you, since he went to the event today. What's the basic gist of Uncharted 2? Because all we've seen so far is a couple trailers and a teaser, basically.
Yeah, the basic idea is it starts off, they're wanting to explore more of, who Nathan Drake really is. He got a little hint before, but, he's a thief. He's a little shadier than, your average hero. And so it starts off with him, busting into a museum and getting some artifact, and that kind of starts up the chain of events. And from there, it goes to a swamp in the South Pacific, and then eventually ends up in Nepal. And there's some sort of war-torn cities there, and then you get further up into the mountains and the Himalayas and the snow and stuff like that.
Now, what are some of the big gameplay enhancements for this sequel? Because the original game was great, but there was a couple little nagging issues, like the hand-to-hand combat wasn't great. The AI of the enemies wasn't all that great either. So what are some of the changes that they've made?
We haven't seen a whole lot in terms of the melee combat as far as any differences. I noticed some similar moves. One of the things they added, they're calling action stealth. So they don't want the pace of the game to slow down, but you can use your cover and hide behind it and pull up behind guys more often and take them out with just a quick stealth move. And that will net you maybe some extra grenades or another weapon that you wouldn't have had access to otherwise. And the other thing is being able to shoot while you're traversing terrain, while you're climbing on buildings and stuff. You can shoot from any point now. So they're blending the two styles of gameplay into one cohesive style.
Now, did they show the shooting while you're hanging
They
on?
they didn't actually show that at the point that they had there. They showed the demo they had there was the same little area that we've seen in the screenshots with the streets and the brick buildings. But there was a lot of climbing over urban landscapes and lampposts and things like that. One thing they say that you can do is you can actually take hang from one of the street signs and use that as cover and then pop up above it and peek over and shoot guys from there.
Are you talking like a billboard or a street sign?
Like a shop sign,
Okay.
like you'd have for out in front of a tavern or something. The big thing in terms of the characters, they're going more, they said there's going to be a lot more characters this time. Sullivan is back, and then Drake has a partner named Chloe, and she's Australian, and she's a love interest this time around. And
The news reporter chick gone.
yeah, they showed some test dialogue from one of the auditions that sounded like it was explaining what had happened, but they say none of that's final, so who knows.
Now, is this after the first Uncharted, or is this a prequel?
This is after.
Okay.
And
Directly after, did they say?
they don't say a time frame, but I'm sure it's just some point in the future, maybe a year or two later, or a couple months later.
So how does Chloe play? Get into the picture. What's her role?
Well, she's from Drake's past. He's known her for a while and worked on her with different operations, I guess.
He's worked on her. Fantastic.
But anyways, they say that she's Nathan's equal in every way, but she's more impulsive. So while he'll be like behind cover picking off people with his pea shooter pistol, she'll just pop in and blow away a truck with the turret with a rocket launcher. So
Now, I understand you have a theory about Chloe. I think you should share your theory with everybody because I think it's a really smart one.
yeah, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm talking up her being his equal and all that. I really think that they're hiding co-op from us, and I think that the final game will probably have some form of co-op. Probably a different set of missions. Maybe it's smaller than the main game, but I think there's going to be something in there.
It could also work Resident Evil style.
Yeah.
It could be that type of co-op.
Yeah,
and
but
that
I don't
might
know.
be
It
interesting.
depends because the level design there, at least the stuff they showed us, didn't look like it would be conducive to two people
Maybe
going
they
in
didn't
different
want to
ways or
show
anything.
you
Oh.
that.
Yeah.
You see, maybe
No.
they were being sneaky. They're PR people.
From what you saw, though, is Chloe just gonna? Do you have any way to control Chloe? Or should you act independent of you?
She is independent, and in the part that she was in this demo, she wasn't really actively there. She just came in and there was a cutscene. She was in a different place, but there are screenshots with her standing right next to him shooting.
So let's go to the real question: how hot is she? Can we
Because the
expect
girl in
it-
the first one wasn't really all that hot, right?
No, I mean,
she's definitely.
She was kinda like the kinda
she's
hot teacher you had in
Australian.
high
She's
school.
tan. She's more exotic. I mean, she very much looks like a female Drake, but amped up.
a female Drake, amped up in certain areas. Will we see her in Playboy's Girls of Gaming come October, November? That's what I want to know.
Now, speaking of Drake, I think one thing that really held down the sales of the first one was Drake.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like this generic adventure guy. He doesn't even have like the hat like Indiana Jones. Do you see them doing anything with the character in this game to try to make him maybe a little bit more appealing to the average player?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that appeal of Drake is a lot in just the way his lighthearted attitude towards things. So I don't know if there's anything that you can do on like a box cover or anything like that.
Now, it's interesting too because traditionally Naughty Dog does a lot of focus group testing. Like that's how they came up with the character Jack, for instance. Lots of focus testing, lots of people saying I like that, I don't like that. I just wonder where they came up with Drake.
Well, I think you could look at Drake, and he's Indiana Jones. He's the guy from the Mummy movies. I mean, that sort of adventurer type thing. But Indiana Jones perhaps a little bit dodgier. I think there's elements of Han Solo in him.
Who
And
never had his own game.
He never had his own game, I know, but he did have 3 of his own novels.
Yeah,
Han
those were a
Solo,
big hit.
Han Solo at Star's End, Han Solo's Revenge, and Han Solo, or I can't remember the last one. But I read them all as a
You're not
child.
supposed to.
But anyway, I going back to your marketing question. I think Sony need to get on the ball for this, and one of the ways they can do this is to make Drake more of a character, put him out there, because they didn't really do that with the first game. It's like there's this game coming out. It's like Tomb Raider, but it's got a bloke in it. If they want to make the character a little more interesting, that's great. I mean, maybe they should rename it Uncharted 2. Drake's a bit of a bastard this time, just to really sort of, bring it out there to people. But yeah, if they build the character and they build Chloe as well, especially if you're going to be able to play as her in co-op, that's the sort of thing. I mean, everybody knows how hardcore Master Chief is. Everybody knows Mario is the plumber, and everybody knows Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War. Sony haven't done that with Drake yet, and if they can turn Nathan Drake into that sort of character, then all of a sudden people will start to recognize him. They need to make him pop a little bit more, and you do that in the campaign beforehand, the PR campaign, and then obviously in the game you expand on it. Hope they do a good job, because we need games like Uncharted, because there's a void. Tomb Raider Underworld, Tomb Raider Underdone. We need that sort of adventure thing. Lara Croft needs to be put out to dry, and let's have Drake and Chloe and her lovely Australian breastises.
Now, what about the visuals? Obviously, Drake, the first Uncharted, still is one of the best looking games
Yeah,
on the
the
market.
lighting engine in that game is great, and it's great here as well, and just to see, how much more, like shadows from everything above is hitting the ground and stuff. There's a lot of different things that they touched on. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know is one of Naughty Dog's teams, they're actually sealed off from the rest of the office behind locked doors, and they work on engine tech for the PS3 for first and third parties, and really pulling the power out of the system. And so they're saying before they were able to do that to about 30%, and now they've actually gotten it to where they're all running 100% at the same time. And Guerrilla, working on Killzone, said that was the trick that they had to do to get as much power out of that. So now these things, stuff that was being handled by the graphics processor, now these SPUs are handling stuff like AI and
Which is the way the machine was designed for in the first place.
But anyways, but some practical things that they were showing off before in the first Uncharted. The model they had for Nathan in the cinemas and the model they had for gameplay were totally different. And now that cinema model is being used in the gameplay as well.
Does it matter? I mean, I didn't even notice that personally, that the model was different in the first game.
You never get up close and personal.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they've got an improved camera angle and it's a seamless jump now from gameplay to cinematic where you can barely tell the difference. That's obviously the way to go down the line. But if you can't do that right now, who gives a rat's?
And they were showing off, the VGA teaser. A lot of people will assume that maybe that was pre-rendered or whatever, but no, they showed the actual in-engine version running, and they were spinning the camera and rewinding it and stuff like that and moving things around.
Yeah, I don't think I ever questioned that, actually. I always thought that looked like it was real time.
And one of the things that hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of, but they're working on making the ice and snow to be just as much of a wow factor as the water was in the first game.
Yeah.
So they have like some translucence going on and different sparkle effects and footprints in the snow and that kind of thing.
Overall, what's your impression? You more excited to play it now than you were before you went there today?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the game. I want to see more.
What's going on?
Next, we're going to talk about the Final Fantasy XIII trailer that finally was released last week. It's been, since E3, I guess, since we got a truly new piece of media? Even that really wasn't new. A lot of that stuff was recycled.
Yeah, every new trailer is basically like 5 new seconds of footage, touted onto like 2 minutes of existing footage.
It's kind of weird, too, because they put the trailer up on their official site, and they embargoed it to us, and we weren't allowed to put it up for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Do they really need to pay bandwidth bill? I mean, why do they want people to go to their site so bad? I don't get it. But what are your impressions of this trailer? It's been a long time coming, so a lot of people were pretty excited to come to the site and see it up there.
First and foremost, I was very impressed with the fact that they finally showed off in real time some gameplay footage. I mean, I think the biggest question was, what is the battle system going to be like in 13? Was it going to be like 12, or is it more real time? You approach enemies, or is it going to go back to that not really random encounter, but where it goes into a loading into the battle and it's all strictly turn-based?
Yep.
And from what we saw, it's going back to a more older style. It looks a little bit more like the Final Fantasy X battle system, which disappointed me a little bit because I was a fan of the 12 battle system. But it is interesting to see that.
I wonder if that means they're like hedging their bets. If they're looking back and they're like, maybe that wasn't the right decision to make.
I think they drew about some of the complaints from 12 from the deterrents was that it felt like an offline MMO that played more like Final Fantasy 11 offline, and some people didn't really like that. Final Fantasy has always strictly been turn-based, doesn't go into the Tales, Star Ocean type thing. And I think people were very pleased with what they saw. The traditionalists were very happy. I was pretty happy with that.
But a lot of people love Final Fantasy XII. We gave it an 8, I think an 8.0, and we got raked over the coals pretty hard for that. Everyone else gave it like 9.9, 9.7.
Well, I think 12 had a great gameplay system in there. I think the story was one of the weakest stories in there. And the presentation, it was decent, but it was good with this trailer because we got to see the in-game visuals. A lot of theories are going around that the game might have been pushed back because it wasn't looking so hot.
Right.
At first they saw these games coming out and they're like, we're Square Enix. We have the best produced games, the best looking games.
Well, there was games like The Last Remnant that ran at like 2 frames per second at certain points. You start to wonder now if their engine is really up to snuff.
Well, that was Unreal Engine. So
Right.
That's one thing, I don't know if they're used to working with other people's engines as much.
Which is strange. I still don't quite understand why they decided to, go with the Unreal route. Because you're never going to make a game that looks better than Epic's game. I mean, obviously they're the best with that engine. And like you said, Square is known for its sky-high production values. So why would you not build your own engine to make sure you're going to stand out above everybody else?
Can I ask you a question as playing devil's advocate? If you're somebody like me who played the first batch Final Fantasy games on the Super NES and the PS1, and then got sick and tired of the same kind of story, the same kind of cinematics, and the same kind of combat system, I know you're talking about they're changing the combat system back to again that older style. How would you convince somebody like me who has no intention of playing Final Fantasy 13? How would you convince them to say that this is I'm going to try it out? Somebody please sell me on this because I
don't
watched
think there's
it.
enough information yet to beat that into you, so to speak.
I'm just wondering because I see a lot of the stuff I always see. I see these androgynous males. I mean that's actually how I get the most fun of Final Fantasy games. I play guess the gender of the people I'm playing with.
Yeah, that's their
It's true.
character
It's-
design for you.
It's not always obvious.
There was the one little hint I think they dropped in there with the gameplay portions is that it seemed to borrow a little bit more from The Last Remnant. Again, this is not official, it's just what I observed, is that it seemed that there were different parts of the battle arena and you were, instead of controlling your party in one area fighting one set of enemies, your characters were engaging different mini battles. So
could
there
be
might be
interesting.
that could be the hook that they're doing is that you're micromanaging a party fighting multiple fronts at the same time. Kind of like that might have been what they did with Last Remnant. That was their trial to use
Their
it in
test.
13. That's just one theory,
Or
but
it's just really good editing.
really good editing
Yeah.
could be one.
Or it
But
looks all fluid. Like it's weird.
the issue with all the Final Fantasy games is, yes, they pretty much do seem the same with their gameplay system. They do enough. They do something very subtle each time to make it a hook, whether it be the job system, whether it be 12, pseudo real-time battle. They change it up just enough to keep, the core base happy. For new gamers, that are trying to look to get into it, it might.
Well,
just
I'd
be-
like to actually
yeah.
get back into it because I actually played 6, 7, and 8 to such a degree where I'd crank in almost like 50 hours at a time because I was running, going back through and leveling up and grinding almost like I do in an MMO. And it just, I got to number 9. I was like, I'm doing the same again.
Yeah, unfortunately, their Final Fantasy RPGs are notorious for level grinding. Even their remakes went back and played Final Fantasy 4 DS. All the same spots we need to level grind, they are still there.
I don't know. I made it through that game with only level grinding twice.
Yeah, you can get it through with those two. I did it in 3 spots, I think, and I didn't find it that difficult. But I did the mandatory level grind. But 12, ironically, was the longest RPG I ever played because I had to spend the most time level grinding. Even when you knew what to do against a boss, you simply weren't doing enough damage to them. I was like, it drove me insane. I mean, it's got a great gameplay system. Why do I need to penalize me by wandering around playing random battles for hours to get a high enough level? I really wish they would go away from that. I'm hoping 13 goes away from that. Something I agree with you with. I hate that.
Do you think some Final Fantasy fans like that, though?
That's
one of the
that's
hallmarks of the
the
series.
one hallmark of JRPGs and Final Fantasy is the whole level grind. That's the one aspect of JRPGs I can't stand and wish they would get rid
Yeah,
of.
well, I think that the telling thing about that was when I was getting footage for Blue Dragon last year. The achievements on there, they were actually achievements for maxing your characters out to level 99. And I just can't imagine who would have fun doing that.
So, all right, here's another question, observation. I know I'm going to get hauled over the coals by the Final Fantasy fanboys on this, but we know what my favorite game of last year was.
Fallout 3.
Now that is actually that has taken RPGs in a different direction. I mean, you're not looking at turn-based as such with the VAT system, but it is a first-person RPG with shooter elements. Personally, to me, that seems like an evolving the RPG genre. Do you think that we would ever see something like that from Final Fantasy from Square Enix? Because
No,
if they had the stones to do
Not
it,
happening.
but you saw it from Sega. I think Valkyria Chronicles was
Yeah.
that answer. I think Fallout and Valkyria Chronicles are the two best things that happened to the strategy/RPG genre in a long time.
So next we're going to talk about an early Resident Evil 5 review. Now we've talked about exclusive reviews on the show before. Basically talked about how we felt it was a conflict of interest and we'll never do it. This is a little different because OPM Official PlayStation Magazine has already published its review of Resident Evil 5. Now, we just got a build of the game for preview purposes, although I don't think we're going to be able to do anything with it, which stinks.
Yeah, no video.
No video allowed, so we're kind of between a rock and a hard place there. But what surprises is that the build that we got isn't done. It's only about half of the game, yet somehow OPM has already managed to play all the way through the game and review the game, and they gave it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, and
But-
you have to remember that they are
Resident Evil
print.
5.
Yeah.
well, this is where you listen to Uncle
Five.
Marcus, children. Gather round and let me tell you a story
Campfire.
of PR shenanigans and skullduggery. All right, this is the way it works. I've done this before myself. with regards to the build that, say, just came in here, that build was probably annexed a good 3 to 4 months ago. And it was probably put to one side because when you're doing a PR plan, you have one plan for print, one plan for broadcast and online. And you basically annex the builds. I guarantee you the build that came in here over the last couple of days was at OPM and Game Informer and all those other places probably last October, maybe even last November. For this review to hit this week, just doing some mental arithmetic in my head, I'm thinking that the OPM crew would have had to have played a finished version of this probably the week before Christmas. Given the Christmas break and everything, probably about a week before Christmas, probably a Japanese version, non-localized. They may even have had to go to Japan to do it. But that's the only way this time frame can be put together. And they probably reviewed a build that was the first Goldmaster candidate that was going off to, in this case, Sony. That's how it works with a lot of things. That's how when I did a Fear review, there was a PC Gamer cover, and we actually got the cover coming out like 3.5 weeks before the game hit the shelves. I was literally, they wrote the review on the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday, playing the game, submitted the review, it went out and was actually in print, or was being printed the following Monday. That's how close it can get when the heavens align for a PR person. Obviously, if this game is still not coming out for another 6 weeks, so I mean we are talking about a 3-month disparity between them playing the game, the reviewable game, and then it hitting the streets. Now that's where it does cast a bit of an issue, because I've never been able to do that myself with regards to a console review. I've only been able to do it with PC, where you've had to go through all, you don't have to worry about the approval process of Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo. So I'm not certainly casting aspersions on Future. I've got some good friends who work up there, who would probably be very upset with me. But yeah, this does strike me as a tad dodgy, unfortunately. But again, given the discussions we've had about the state of the print market and how the print market is going down the tubes, they've got to
desperate for sales.
They've got to take every advantage they can get on this.
I'm just wondering if they played the finished game.
Yeah.
I mean, why would they send us this build if there's a finished build of the game out there that would run with less bugs and leave a general, more positive impression in our minds of the game?
Because they're PR people and they don't trust you. They don't trust anybody. PR people do not. We never trust any journalists. I mean, even if good friends like you and me have been for several years, it's always one of those things that I had a case where I was working on Ghost Recon, and somebody I knew and trusted for a couple of years, I sent them a copy of Ghost Recon, and they left it lying around their office, and somebody lifted it and uploaded it to the internet. And luckily, I hadn't told them that it was a fingerprinted build, so we tracked it down and we got it sorted. But it's literally that is such a big concern with regards to, are they going to break an embargo, or is somebody going to post on his own blog site, or?
But they gave us the build that we're not allowed to do anything on. I mean
that doesn't make much sense.
They already shown they trust us because they gave us something, told us we can't publish anything about it on the site, yet they still sent it to us.
They give you a build that's a couple of months older, so again, there is still that. I mean, it's always a case of one plan for print, one plan for online, where you have to do stuff later on, because there is still a perceived value with getting the cover of OPM, OXM, PC Gamer.
Sure.
Because when you go to retail, even with a juggernaut like Resident Evil, you still have to be able to go to retail and say, okay, we've got all these covers, so now GameStop, bump up your order by another 500,000 units.
Right.
And so, there's always that, and a lot of PR people still have covers built into their bonus structure when it comes to salary. I can deliver you 10 covers for Resident Evil. Okay, well done. You will get an extra 20 cents on a bag of Cheetos.
Well, to me, the thing that's really strange is just the timing in this, and the Killzone 2 review embargo. It's just like, that's 3 weeks ahead of the game. And it seems so counterproductive for everyone to be amped up about the game and then have to sit there with no
They're
new
counting
information.
on people like holding their hype for 3 weeks for the game to come out. I mean,
what's its competition?
That
really?
is just pretty damn stupid. Unfortunately, I never have a review hit 3 weeks beforehand online. Print, yes, because print stays on the shelf.
The magazine lays around the whole month. Yeah.
Once you are off that front page, you're gone. So I mean, I would never have my big reviews hit until 1 week before. and then
Max.
I'd have my secondary big reviews hit about the Wednesday or the Thursday, and then the next ones hit on the Friday, so that you'd have all the reviews on the front page for a week. You'd have the deals, secured, so that you'd be at the top of the game track game rankings, and all, Metacritic and all this stuff. It would come through at the right time. But doing it this far in advance is kind of silly and just totally negates all the nice things that I said about Sony's PR people in the Drake's
Now,
section.
has anyone actually read this review? I have not. So
No, not yet.
I mean, does it cover things that we haven't seen yet?
It covers
Or
the
is it
game-
one of those where they talk about everything that you've seen in trailers and everything that we've seen in all the builds that we've got so far?
It definitely covers everything in white creamy goo. I mean, they're masturbating over the game like furious.
Really?
Like little rabbits. Yeah.
But I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if they
You're
talk
talking
about things that we haven't
specifics.
seen. Yeah, like specifics.
No,
or if they just gloss over
they don't
everything.
go into anything that specifically you could not have deduced from a trailer or from the preview build.
See, that's a little shady.
They also, the way they wrote some of the stuff, and they drew how they compared it to RE4 with what I played from the preview build. I don't.
Sorry,
it's their opinion, but it seemed like a really far-fetched opinion what they were drawing from. It seems like someone would have come to this conclusion based on watching stuff and playing just a little bit of it. Having played through more of it, you might not have come to that conclusion.
Right.
So I was a little like, but
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have like a review event where you flew up somewhere or sat there with a bunch of other editors.
Well, they still
and sat
may. It
down.
doesn't come out
Yeah.
for 6 weeks.
I'm sure they will, but I mean, I'm sure there was much pressure on Capcom from Sony as well, because Sony are a little bit worried that Resident Evil 5 is also coming out on the 360 at the same time.
Yeah.
We know what happened with GTA. Final Fantasy again is coming out on the 360. So this may be that they won't get an OXM cover. Maybe it's like we'll give you X amount of extra co-branded advertising, Capcom, if you push it on the PS3, and that's fair enough. That's totally valid. That's the way these people work.
Yeah, it could even be one of those deals where they already have the covers lined up for the next several months, and they're like, look, if you want to get a cover, you need to do this now.
Yeah.
Doomsday sounds about right, and apparently it is no rumor.
You're kidding, right?
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Unfortunately, we did not get On the Hook in. We ran out of time, but it will be back in next week's edition. You guys actually sent some pretty good questions this time, so kind of sad we didn't get to it. Head on to Facebook. Check out the Invisible Walls group on there. Join up. It's really cool to go on there and see all you guys, see your faces, and see the people who are watching and listening to the show. So thank you very much for checking us out. We'll see you next week.